Man, I don't know about you, but I love when I get an unexpected Transformer show up in my neck of the woods, especially when that Transformer is something that's exclusive, especially when it's exclusive to a store that's not here in Canada. I'm talking, of course, about the new Earthrise Bluestreak. In the States, this is a Walgreens exclusive. In Canada, boom, all of a sudden they just started showing up at EB Games, and they are, in fact, here an EB Games exclusive, which makes sense because that's usually the way it goes. I really thought I was going to have the smokescreen or the Prowl version of this mold first, but you know what? I'll take Bluestreak as my first foray into this mold. We're going to talk about him in comparison to the Siege, though I don't have the Siege readily available. But more importantly, we're going to compare Earth Mode to Earth Mode because we're going to talk about this guy in comparison to his earlier Classics iteration. Which Earth Mode is the better Earth Mode? The older one or the newer one? Well, we're about to find out when we dive into the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you're at it, light them up, baby. And hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors NL, The Autobot Family, Autobot, City Central, and Transformers vs. G.I. Joe vs. DC Universe vs. Marvel. And of course all my social media links. Links for all of that, man, is down in the description. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And this is the Earthrise Bluestreak. This is, as I said, a Walgreens exclusive in the States. It is an EB Games exclusive here in Canada, apparently. I have no idea about international availability. I would guess eventually you would have this guy maybe come out through like Takara. I would guess then you might be able to use online retailers like Big Bad Toy Store to be able to get him later on. But for now, it is what it is. And yeah, I like this. I like this. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than the original? Well, that's probably a bit debatable. Is it better than the Siege? I think so. There's a whole lot to unpack here, and there's a whole lot to like, and a couple of little things worth noting. Without any further ado, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. What a wacky year 2020 has been. I thought that this was going to be my third go at looking at this mold by now. I really figured I would have Smokescreen first. I was supposed to have Prowl. I kind of thought I might even have Prowl first because I was supposed to get my 2-pack way back at the beginning of October, but that got delayed. It's still delayed. I have no idea when it's even going to ship or if it's going to ship at this point. I don't know. Hopefully it will. I'll be disappointed and sad if it doesn't. But I do have in the States, it's a Walgreens exclusive. Here in Canada, it is apparently an EB Games exclusive, and it popped up out of nowhere. This is the Earthrise Bluestreak. And man, I love the guy. I really do. I said back in episode 657, when I looked at the 35th anniversary of Bluestreak, that mold, the Siege mold, wasn't for me. I wasn't a fan of the alt mode, though the robot mode was glorious. And I said that there was a toss-up between the robot mode being the best for the Bluestreak use or the barricade use at the time. But for me personally, I was keeping my classics because I had that Earth mode and I do like the classics. And then these guys were announced, and I was like, yeah, there you go. There's the updates I've been waiting for. That's the update I want, man. So, we're going to see just how good it is, because I've gone in on it now. But before we look at him, you know what we're going to do, don't you? That's right, packaging first, baby. And we have gorgeous, glorious packaging over here. Excellent, excellent artwork of Bluestreak. He looks phenomenal there. The usual on the side here. Of course, we have the product images on the back. It's fine. It's an Earthrise box. We've got some beautiful Earthrise instructions. Interestingly, this guy doesn't have any stats. Like I've talked about on a few of these where the instructions have the stats, but they're in Cybertronian, so I don't know what they're saying. But this guy doesn't seem to have any unless I'm missing it. Our boy Bluestreak comes with this blaster. It is accurately molded and accurately colored, plus 2 of these smaller blasters that can be put on his shoulder, they can be held in his hand, or we'll show something else they can do. Again, they're the same color as his body. That was one of the complaints I had with the Siege, was that his shoulder blasters were they were a cool gray and his body was like a warm gray. So this matches. This too is accurate. It can look like this. Up on our lad's shoulders over here with his main blaster put on his back. I like it. Or he could always have his main blaster in his hand. By the way, that's a very snug fit. He can have one of the small ones in one hand and one on his shoulder, or you can always put them all together to make like a triple barrel type of blaster, and he can hold it cool guy style. And so now the devil is in the details. Here he is next to the classics. And first thing that we need to talk about is the size differentiation here. There is a big one. The classics clocks in at about 94 grams. And at the time that he came out was 10 or 12 bucks. Now granted, that was a long time ago. The new one is significantly smaller, not just shorter, but instead of being about 94 grams, he clocks in at 72 grams. Way too small for a deluxe. That is in the same territory as something like Reflector or Cliff Jumper. Too small for deluxe. Absolutely. I love the mold, but I don't like that it's so light. That bothers me. Nevertheless, and I can't compare him to the Siege because I don't have it. I do think, however, the Earthrise is the superior offering over the Siege. That's what I would say to you, personally speaking. So let's talk coloration. I said that the Siege was a 9.5, and I said that the Classics was a 7. After some custom work I did on him, he was a 9. What about the Earthrise? Well, starting from the feet going up, the lights should be orange on his toes, but that's fine, the lights being what they are. The windows on his shins are fine, his thighs are fine, his waist is fine. For his pelvis, not his pelvis, his tummy, we have a lot of red. There should be a little more kind of gray there. The chest is perfectly fine. The door wings are fine as well. Then we get to the arms. The hands are fine. The forearms are fine. But then we get to the upper arms. The biceps should be the same color as the hands. So the color we have on the shoulders should be what the biceps are. And the color on the actual shoulders should be a little bit of a darker gray, more like what the Siege has on the shoulders. This is good, but it's about a 9.5 again. It's so close, but still not quite perfect. That being said, the alt mode here is really what sells it, at least to me. So, looking at the two of these side by side, one is definitely smaller, if that's what you want. Like, the scale here is definitely a little bit different. Both are great. Both are comparable in terms of their look, especially if you do a bit of custom work or you have the Henkei version of the Classics Bluestreak. And then we get to the articulation. I said the articulation for the Classics was a 10. I said the articulation for the Siege was a 10. I think the articulation's perfect. What about the Earthrise? Okay, so with everyone fairly comparable across the board in terms of their look, what about that articulation? For the other two lads, the Classics, I said the articulation was a 10, as I did for Siege. What about the articulation on the Earthrise guy? Well, we do have a head that can go left and right. It can look up, kind of down. The door wings can get it away a little bit, enough that you can do all the way around with the arm. We can go out. Now, here's the thing. There's I guess a tab right here and a peg hole in like his armpit, I suppose, and that's supposed to stay tabbed in. It doesn't stay that tabbed in, and you're supposed to have the shoulder go up and out this far, but you can untab this, and usually that's going to give before the shoulder will, because the shoulder is very tightly toleranced on mine, and the whole thing there comes undone. Now, it doesn't really affect anything because you can just bring it down and it tabs back in. However, it's important to note that you need to untab that for transformation. We have a elbow over 90 degrees. We have a bicep rotation, both of which are extremely tight. The wrist, that's just normal tight. The legs, they can kick all the way forward nicely. Not much back, And it's not that anything's really in the way, it's not much back. He can do, getting these up, he can do full splits, man. He can do thigh rotations built into the leg, which I like. We have a very deep knee, deeper than that because of transformation. A heel spur here that can move forward or ankle tilt, and we do have a little bit of like forward and back at the ankle. Not a ton, but a little bit to help get solid poses. Oh, and we have a waist that can go all the way around. Honestly, like, I feel like all the articulation is still there. It's still great. However, I can't quite call it a 10 on this particular copy. I'm going to call it a 9.5. Here's why I'm not quite calling it a 10 like with the other ones. The knees are slightly loose. They're not going to fall or anything, but you can feel that they're slightly loose, and the shoulders are so tight that you're undoing a transformation hinge really before the shoulder gives. Like before the shoulder gives, you're undoing this hinge. I'd rather be too tight than not tight enough. But other copies of the mold, maybe the Prowl use, maybe the smokescreen use, might have the tolerances slightly tweaked to give it a 10. But this particular copy, I'm going to give it a 9.5, which is still great, man. It's still a 9.5, right? There's nothing to feel bad about at all. Now we can jump into that transformation, and the transformation is, there's parts of it I like, parts of it I don't. So very first thing to note is make sure that you disengage this section like under his armpit, and right there's a little red tab. Also, when you're transforming him from vehicle back into robot mode, make sure that the roof section clears that tab, otherwise it'll kind of get caught up and you'll be wondering to yourself, what's going on? Why is this getting caught up? Once you have this done, you can lift the entire kind of chest section up over his head, and at this point probably even rotate the head around. Naturally, though it's gone off screen, the kind of hood and the front tires and the arms, all of that's there. The roof section's on his back, the doors are open there. But we want to kind of deal with the legs next, and they are the one kind of stumbling section here. Now remember, before I said the transformation for the Siege was about a 9.5. It's pretty great transformation, honestly. The Classics I said was only about a 4 because of that well-known, well-documented issue of the doors, you know, the doors kind of coming off. Everybody knows that issue. With this one, I think the issue is going to be those legs. So you turn the legs around, or the waist around, and we have an opening in here. Now Ninja Bill, shout out to Ninja Bill, said that if you want to get the kind of car a little more snug when you get it together, you can remove these sections here. These pieces here, they're supposed to rotate up, but if you remove them, you get a snug fit, a little more of a snug fit. Of course, now you have completely open feet because they're kind of like feet fillers, right? There is one little tab right here, that's what holds the heels together, which you're going to want done. This may go well, this may not. I find a lot of the time what happens is I try to keep them pegged together. They may want to stay, they may not. And then as I fold up the leg, of course, what's supposed to happen is the thigh kind of goes in behind right here, but everything sort of sandwiches and fills in this space down here, and then you kind of take this piece and you'll rotate it up like that. However, I find it's not uncommon for me to have to do it 2 or 3 times before I get it actually to fit. So we're going to try it here and we'll see. So I should be able to put the 2 feet together right there. And then we should be able to bring the hips up. I'm going to bend at the knees. Bring the hips all the way up. Now you're trying to get them kind of under this roof section, which does not like to bend out of the way the most. And there's a little notch there that goes into a little notch between the 2 windows. That's how you know you kind of got it like lined up right. But it's a bit of a nuisance to do. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. There, you get that in, and now can I rotate these up? You see my problem? I'm not able to rotate these up just yet, so I got to take this down and sort of try and do it again. And that's the story with this guy's legs, for me anyway. Maybe other people have better luck, but for me, that's my story with this guy's legs. There, now I got it up. And now I got that kind of in, kind of sort of in. I'm going to have to finagle that a little bit. But at this point then, you can come down with these heel spurs and you can put those in there and have that much done. Then you can rotate the arm around so that the tire's up there and bring the arm down. Same over here, rotate it, bring the arm down. There's the, I'll call it the chest section. I should have shown this. There's that section right there. It's the middle of the hood. That should come all the way up into position for the hood. Then that goes down. Then we can angle down that arm and angle down that arm. That kind of straightens everything up. There's a rectangular tab on the arm. There's a rectangular slot on the door. When you close the doors, they should tab onto the arms. A lot of people say that they struggle with that. I don't find that that's a problem. The only real problem is trying to do these legs. I'm going to say the transformation's about an 8, maybe an 8.5, because I think the Siege handled the legs a little bit better. Still good, but just a little slight touch weaker. Here he is in his vehicle mode. I guess if you want, you could put that up there. You know, not the best for accessory storage. But the question remains, for an Earth mode, which one looks better? This guy or the classics? Well, as you can see here, we have both of them in their car modes, and guess what? I think both of them are a nice approximation of the original alt mode, though both are a little bit stylized. Admittedly, I do believe that the Earthrise one is more true to the original animation model, both in coloration and in the shape of the vehicle. I really do like the classics vehicle though. I mean, it boils down like this. Do you prefer silver rims and a gray and black color scheme, or do you prefer red rims with a silver and black color scheme? That's kind of where we're to. And honestly, it's not a question of one being better than the other or more right than the other. It is 100% a pure aesthetic choice as to what you prefer. So that brings us finally to my overall final thoughts of this Earthrise lad. So in the final analysis, what do we say about this guy? Well, he was getting a 9.5, an 8 for the transformation, 8.75. Let's be nice, let's kick it up to a 9. Honestly, I hoped he was even going to be higher than that. I thought he was going to be almost perfect. However, I think he's still going to stand as my update, as my upgrade, because we do have the other two versions of this mold, and I do want the entire trio to look exactly the same. Here's the thing. Bluestreak is one of those characters who's a little bit blessed, because his classics has its strengths and weaknesses, the Siege has its strengths and weaknesses, and so does the Earthrise. But at the end of the day, there are 3 great options in the main line for Bluestreak, and it's really just a matter of which one suits your collection the best. And you know what? Even if you want to go to the MP line, the Bluestreak is one of the few MP characters that I truly think is worthy of the name MP. I don't know. Bluestreak's a pretty lucky boy to have so many wonderful representations of himself. And here we are, and here he is once again. Look, I like this, I do, but there's a few things you have to really watch out for, especially with the armpits. You have to make sure that they are down and pegged in, because that solidifies the body. You have to make sure that they're unpegged when you want to put up the front. There are a couple of tolerance, I'm not going to say issues, just variations. Like the shoulders are real tight. Now it's nice that they're tight, I'm glad that they're tight, but they're tighter than the peg that's holding the armpit in, at least on my copy. I suspect that will be mileage, you know, may vary with your copy. And it might even be different for the prowl and the smoke screen. The biceps are super duper tight. The coloration is mostly accurate. The arms are still slightly inaccurate. They look good though, so I kind of give it a pass. Will I do some custom work on them? I don't know. I guess we'll see as time goes on. But this very much embodies the silhouette of Bluestreak, and it very much embodies like that alt mode really well. Like the Earth mode, I think, is fantastic. It's small, it's compact, and it's beautiful. I like this better than the classics, but the classics is still a great version as well. Some people will choose to keep the Siege, and I get that. Honestly, the coloration and whatnot on the Siege is beautiful, and I think the engineering, especially in the legs, is a little bit nicer on the Siege. The Classic, some people will choose to keep that because A, they're used to it, B, it's bigger than this, significantly, and C, if you're used to how the doors are handled on that, really the rest of the transformation is fairly elegant. So I see the argument for doing that as well. With this guy, great colors, not perfect. Excellent articulation, really excellent articulation. The conversion, in theory, all of it is elegant and makes perfect sense. In practicality, you do have that one little peg, and some people have worried about it stressing. I have not had it happen on mine, and I don't really worry about it, but I could see it. I wish that the way the thighs like folded up and then everything sort of compacted into the legs was a little smoother, because like the design is elegant. It's just trying to get everything lined up just right can be a little challenging. It probably gets better with practice. But overall, it's a very successful Bluestreak. And honestly, I think if you find your way clear to find this guy and get him, he's definitely worth adding to your collection. Let me know what you think about Bluestreak. Let me know what you think about Prowl and Smokescreen for that matter. I appreciate you guys coming by and giving me some of your extremely valuable time, man. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon, see what we offer to you through Teespring, or of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube, baby. You can also hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us. Don't forget that somehow, some way, man, each and every single day, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way, baby, right here, beside the videos.